It's been said that the opposite of addiction is connection. Community and feeling like we're a part of something outside of ourselves is so key to our recovery. And today we're going to talk about what does that look like for us as we're leaning in to this process.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, welcome to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast where we talk about life change stories, recovery conversations to push us down the road closer in our relationship with Jesus Christ as we grow in healing and hope with Him. And we're so excited to have this conversation today around something that's so essential to our recovery journey. It's connection with ourselves, with God, with others, and how that pushes us down the road in our healing journey. And I'm so excited for this conversation today. But before I do, I just want to say this. If you're getting something out of this, these podcasts and these conversations, would you please, smash that like and subscribe button if you wouldn't mind sharing this to folks that you feel like would get something out of this, or giving us a rating on wherever you're listening to podcasts. That'd be super, super helpful as we try to get this message out to others so that people can find the same healing that we found in Jesus. We really appreciate that. But super excited about our conversation today. Let me introduce myself. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, struggle with anxiety and depression, sexual addiction, and grief, and my name is Andy. And I get the great privilege of being able to serve as the ministry leader for Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Fayetteville. And with me is a good friend of mine. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, struggle with anxiety, depression, alcoholism, and food binging. And my name's Hudson.
Hey, Hudson. And Hudson works alongside me at Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Fayetteville. Good guy, good friend. Grateful to have you on the podcast. You've been on here plenty of times before, man. But wanted to have this conversation today for two reasons. One, we were having a conversation in the office, just a little bit ago about the importance of connection as it relates to our recovery. And there was just some really good nuggets in there that we were kind of bantering about, but also knowing that we're leaning in to this holiday season. It's in full swing. And what does it look like for us to seek connection rather than seeking our old ways of dealing with life on life's terms? And so, man, we were talking about the importance, that quote of, the opposite of addiction is connection. And man, I know you brought that up, but how does that quote hit you, man? And what do you feel like the importance of connection in your recovery is?
Well, I've heard it said there are no successful Christian islands. So, there's never been one. The only one that could have did it still had community, and that was Jesus. So, I think it's in my own recovery. I think the number one cause for any sort of health that I've experienced and recovery and sobriety has come in community. Has come from hearing other guys share, have come from being real and talking about, the moments where I've never told this to anybody, going there. And in doing that and being open and being vulnerable, and then having other guys do that with me, it has created a real connection in my life. And I think of the scripture, confess your sins to one another so that you might find healing.
Yeah, James 5:16.
Yeah, and that has been. It's weird. My stepstudy leader is like, it's kind of weird. He said it like this. He says, like, it's kind of weird. It's a little freaky, but it's like when we share with each other, something just happens.
Mm.
And it's hard to explain, but in the sharing and in that connecting and being vulnerable, the Holy Spirit just does um, a healing work that is just amazing. And it's a process.
Mm.
It's never in my timing and what I was hoping. And it's, it's kind of odd. The thing that I wanted to work on, or the thing I'm most focused on, seems to be that sometimes I go and work on another thing and then I get to that thing. But it's like, uh, but it's all happened in community,
Yeah.
every bit of it.
Well, hey, let me ask you this, brother. What was hard for you jumping into this recovery journey? Uh, and what did it look like for you to start what did you have to fight against as you were leaning into community?
Yeah. So in my background with alcohol and porn, I was asked not to talk about it from
Mm.
people. Just there were certain people like counselor and pastor I could talk to, but other than that, I had to keep it to myself. And I think I
Yeah,
learned
so
that lesson too well.
yeah, so your addiction was like the secret that you and the people around you were living with. And so you had this kind of like island of community but a lot of forced isolation in it, right?
Right. And it just created a lot of fear in my life, and like the fear of exposure. And in that spot, I found some recovery, and there, I was able to quit drinking. Um, but it just, I think to answer your question, what was hard for me was I was told to keep it to myself, you
Mm.
know, and like I said, I learned that lesson too well. And so when I first started doing open share, I remember telling you how tired I was
I remember that. Yeah.
when we were done. I was exhausted because I was on high alert. I'm like, I'm about to share this with these guys, and um, I was escalated. My nervous system was kicking, and I just was like, but at the same time, I was very desperate.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm very uncomfortable because, and I think the hardest part was just a fear of exposure and rejection.
Yeah.
If these guys knew this, like I've been told by the people that love me most not to tell other people
Mm.
because of the reaction they would have. So I guess it was just that built-in fear of, well, here we go. I'm about to drop this, and I've been told that the worst is going to happen, so that's what I expected.
Yeah. It's so interesting, man, as you're talking about this. One of the things that many of us have realized, and I know I realized in my recovery journey, is that isolation is one of those things that allowed my destructive cycles to really fester and grow. Uh, and so, like, vulnerability and community with others was one of the things that I needed more than anything, but it was the thing that I was most scared of. And I think the enemy does a really brilliant job of convincing. I know he convinced me. It sounds like he convinced you, and there's probably plenty of folks listening to this that can resonate with this as well. It has convinced us that, like, man, if people know this about you, they're going to want nothing to do with you. If people see how broken you really are, Andy, then it's going to confirm all of the fears that you've been living with your whole life. And when I live in those fears and in running from those fears, I run to all sorts of stuff to numb or defend or protect myself so that I don't keep trying to live in that state of fear. But it those things that I run to, they never help the fear. They just keep me stuck, man. It's a wild thing. So, dude, man, let me ask you this. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing as you were stuck in that state of isolation, how would you encourage yourself, man?
Um, Man, that's a tough one. I think there's a lot I would say. Uh, I think the thing I would go with is what you're afraid of that might happen. Even if that does happen, you staying stuck in this is way worse.
Mm, yeah.
Like the worst thing you can think of, it's better to let that go ahead and happen than stay stuck where I'm at.
dude.
Because I mean, thinking back, I mean, I was up to drinking a lot. I just say I don't want to say specific amounts or anything, but uh, I was, I was good at it. I don't know, I was getting better,
Yeah, you were
and
stuck in it, man.
I was stuck. And but just thinking, I say that to say, if I'd have kept going, I don't know if I'd have made it another 3 months just living,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know, um, driving intoxicated, who knows what it would have happened. Um, and that's why I say, like, even if the worst thing I could have imagined at the time were
mm,
to happen, it was better than, because then I would still be breathing, and it's like, and I know not everybody's addiction is, life threatening, but in a way it is,
yeah,
because it's stealing the life that you could have on the other side of telling that truth. And
yeah.
but the fear is just it keeps you stuck.
Recovery.
Or it kept me stuck.
Yeah, that's such a good point, man. Is like, not everybody's addiction is the same thing, and uh, you could call it being addicted to alcohol or porn, or maybe you're addicted to the opinions of another person or your anger or however you want to name it, whether it's a struggle or a habit or an addiction. Let's just call it our dysfunction. Whatever our dysfunction is, it really does rob us of the life God intended for us right here, right now. And I know for me, growing up in church, this idea of eternal and abundant life with Jesus, I always thought abundant life happened after I died and I go to heaven. If I'm a Jesus follower, that's what abundant life is. But the reality is that abundant life happens in the here and now. It happens as we grow in relationship with Jesus. There's a greater degree of freedom that God wants for us than I ever thought possible, that He wanted for me than I ever thought possible. And the freedom that I realized in my recovery, the freedom that I'd been longing for was on the other side of vulnerability. It was on the other side of pursuing connection with others, deeper connection with God, and connection with myself, meaning connection with my story and trying to understand what really is going on in my heart and life that's keeping me running to this. What are the parts of my heart that I've ignored, man? So, dude, what do you feel like the fruit of connection has been in your life, man?
Well, I'm not trying to sound, I guess, cheesy, or but the fruit has been life. I'm able to live, and the thing I was living before was a half life at best. It was, nobody knew me. And the thing about not being known is it is incredibly lonely. And I mean, it's just nobody knows what I mean to live. I lived so long with nobody knowing the thing that was hurting me the most. It was so isolating. And on the other side of it, just people knowing that, just people that know, hey, I struggle. Hey, I'm hurting. Here's why, and knowing why. There's been something incredible about that, of just, I guess, it allowed me to connect, because people could only connect with my mask, and they weren't connecting with me. I like that, what Rodney says about, all of the emotion, everything you're getting is going to that mask that you're wearing, and nothing's getting to you. Um, None of the nutrients of, the emotional nutrients of just connection, and just talking to people. It's all blocked by the fear. And, you know, that's what he says about vulnerability, that it's risky. Vulnerability is risky. And I think I had a lot of good reasons why. I was bullied, I was abused. I had a lot of good reasons why not to be vulnerable. Um, but when I took that risk, it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been cool seeing what God's done in your life, man, and what God can do in any of our lives when we're willing to take that risk of saying, okay, God, you call me to live in connection with you, in connection with others, in connection with my own story, and it's actually one of those things that you tell us that healing is found when we seek that connection. And so I want to lean in. We're going to go to a break here right now, but on the other side of the break, I want to lean into what does it look like for us to cultivate connection in our recovery, and especially maybe even looking at the lens of as we're heading into this holiday season, but cultivating connection with ourselves, with God, and with others. And so let's go ahead and head to a break right now, and we'll catch you when we get back.
Hey, Forever family. Every Friday night, we have our Celebrate Recovery meetings at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by open share groups at 8 p.m. We have the same schedule at both campuses, where you'll find different teachers and different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, visit fellowshipcr.org.
All right. Well, hey, we are back talking with my good friend Hudson, our worship leader down at Fellowship Fayetteville, Celebrate Recovery, but just talking about the importance of connection and community as it relates to us working our recovery. And so we were talking about a little bit of the fruit of connection and what isolation does for us in our recovery before the break. But I want to talk about what does it look like for us to cultivate connection in our recovery. And so connection with ourselves, with God, and with others. And so Hudson, what would you say, man? What are some things that you have done in your life to kind of cultivate connection, man?
We always say at the end of our groups and stuff, keep coming back because it works if you work it and it won't if you don't, at the end of our small groups times and stuff. But it's true. It's just, even when you don't feel like, even when I haven't felt like it, going and showing up at our meetings, at step study, like just, even on the days when I'm tired and I don't want to, go there going, I'm always at the end of it. I'm happy I went because I really need that connection. It's typically, I found, when I don't want to go the most, that's the one I most needed it.
Yeah.
So I think just for me, it's just keep going to the meetings. And then another big thing has just been having men in my life, like sponsors or just guys that I can call that will take my call when I'm really struggling. And I have permission to do that. And I have used that hundreds of times. It just helps me so much just to talk it out. And a lot of times when I talk it out, it just doesn't seem as big anymore, what I was feeling. Or just organizing it and, I think doing that.
It's amazing. That's a good point there, man. When I talk it out, it doesn't seem as big as it was before. It reminds me of kind of like cleaning my room. Like as a kid, I hated cleaning my room because I just thought about just what a giant mess it was. But it's amazing what going in and starting to organize that mess, I start to realize like, oh, this is doable. I can manage this. And, a lot of the times that's the lie I can buy into in my struggles is like, this is too much. That if I open this can of worms, we're never going to get it shut. But being able to have people that we can organize it with. It's interesting, Hudson, you just, as you were talking there, really the importance of cultivating connection with others and part of it, and you said it in there, the meeting that I least want to go to is the meeting that I have to go to. It reminds me of a saying that we have in this recovery process that, if you can get your butt to a meeting, your head and your heart will follow. And so there is just that wisdom of like, the way to cultivate connection is you just got to seek it. You got to take that step. You got to do it. Open share groups were a really hard thing for me when I first got into this process. But you know what? I sat in open share this past Friday night, and like one of the things that I said when I wrapped up my sharing time was, I am so glad that I have this for me. I've been doing Celebrate Recovery a little while now. I've been trying to work my process for a while now. And man, I still need those groups. I still need that connection. That connection is what helps keep me in a healthy place. And there are days where it's like, man, it's hard. I do step study at 5:45 in the morning on Thursday mornings. Some mornings it's hard, but man, it's so worth it. And so part of it is like, all right, in order to get connection, I got to seek connection, and to seek connection, I've got to go. And so like there's just that practical wisdom. But man, you mentioned having guys to call. What does it look like for you to find those people that you can call?
Yeah. I mean, I found all of them through honestly just attending Friday night, which is when we have our meeting, and then also just church, just being in group, and just finding people that are after the same thing I am, and
Yeah.
that's a healthy life with Jesus.
Mm,
Maybe guys that are a little. It helps me to have those guys that I call. I want them to be a little further down the road than me,
yeah.
um, in life and in recovery, um, because it just and I really need somebody to catch me,
Mm,
in that, and I need them to be strong enough to catch me.
mm.
And so it just that has been helpful to know that these guys have been there and done that, got the T-shirt, like, and I could trust like, hey, they've probably been through what I'm going through, and just trust their wisdom in that. Um, and it's actually kind of funny, like as you said, that I've been kind of prepping mentally
Mm.
and like thinking of the guys I can call and stuff going into the holidays.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna, it
So
might be some toughness here.
yeah, so bring me into that, man, because I think that's good. Like I know for me, part of my big recovery, one of my big recovery ahas was that I feel like life before I was trying to seek health with Jesus was me kind of living on autopilot and life just kind of happening to me. And it sounds like you're seeking to try to be a little proactive and anticipating some of the struggles. And so bring us into what's your thought process in that?
A big one has been I've talked to my counselor and sponsor
Mm-hmm.
and my wife, and just I brought them into, here's some situations that I'm worried about, that I know I'm about to step into. How do I handle it?
Mm,
And then, especially with my wife, like, what are some boundaries that we can set up that, like, hey, there's certain family members that might be a little bit more triggering or harder to deal with than others. Hey, why don't we say we're only an hour and a half over there? You know, like, we don't,
yeah.
just being okay with, if they don't like it, well, hey, I love you, but it's just kind of, I like being okay with doing things that are healthy for me,
Mm,
and figuring out what's good boundaries ahead of time. This is the first time I've ever done this, but uh, so in this sense of like, I know something's coming up, uh, and have prepared this well ahead of time. But I think it's just like, I don't know. It feels like I'm preparing for battle. I'm like, it's like I'm getting a plan. Yeah.
dude, as I'm hearing you talk about it, what's coming to my mind is like, man, you are reaping the fruit of you cultivating connection with yourself. Because cultivating connection with ourself is like seeking to honestly know ourselves and to call that out. It can sound a little silly, but like you just gave some really practical examples of like you said, I talked to my counselor, my sponsor, my wife about things I was worried about. And so like you were honest enough with yourself to go, I am worried about this, which is seeking to understand what's going on in your heart. for me, I never articulated my worries before I got into recovery. I just numbed them with whatever I could throw on top of them. Uh, and so, like, that's really good. But also, like, I know that there's going to be certain people that'll put me in certain headspaces. Like, you're understanding your triggers. And rather than running from your triggers, you're seeking wisdom on, man, how can I allow myself to live knowing that triggers are going to be around and not try to eliminate triggers from my life, but how to live when triggers happen. Because, and that's different than going, triggers don't matter, and so I'm going to run full on into it. But like just having the understanding of like, we live in a broken world and broken things are going to happen. And sometimes those broken things are going to tempt me to run to certain stuff. So I don't know, as I'm hearing you talk about it, man, like, that it's funny how that connection with yourself and the connection with the community around you, it actually like melds together really well. So, man, I don't know how that's hitting you, man.
Yeah, I really like what you said. Yeah, what you said. Let's just go with that. No, it's like that's exactly what I'm doing. No, it's been. I feel like we were talking about this earlier in recovery. We learn how to. We're always evaluating ourselves. It's one part of the steps, and we're doing that. And I think the more I learn about myself, I think knowing where I'm weak and knowing, hey, here's where I'm going to need help. And then having people that I know love me and I'm confident enough to share that stuff with, and I feel safe to share it. And then just like knowing I'm not alone in it, and then bring it, like, I'm not going into this by myself anymore.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the coping mechanism, I'm going to the people that love me.
Yeah. Well, it's so good, man. And, I think one thing that we need to touch on in it, because like staying connected with others is so important, but others aren't going to fix us. Staying connected with myself is so important. But one of the things I learned early on in recovery is that I couldn't fix myself. If I could have, I would have, but I can't, so I don't. And so there's only one thing that will change us, and that's the grace of God as we seek and surrender to Him in our life. And so, man, how does your relationship and your connection with Jesus fuel all that you're talking about, man?
Yeah, and I feel like so many times when I go into the holiday season or just anything like this, I go into vacation mode. And I feel like the disciplines and like the things like with spending time with God and stuff, I'm like, honestly, I've been bad at saying, well, I could just take a break from those too. And, I think it is the most important, is when you are, especially going on these holidays for me, man, I got to stay connected to Him. Because like you said, people are great most of the time. I'm I'm great like some of the time, but God, He's awesome all the time, and it's just kind of like, He is truly the source of our strength and our joy and our recovery.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it has been easy to forget that. And I think it's I always feel better after I go and journal. I always feel better after I make the gratitude list and pray. But it's just making myself do it, and just I think what's helped me a lot is elevate the importance of it in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, it is just as important as the other things.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, Hudson, like, and I appreciate your vulnerability in this of being like, man, sometimes that's a struggle. And especially, and I get the idea of like, man, we're heading into the holidays, like time off of work means time off of everything. But even as we were talking earlier, and I know you weren't going to share this on this podcast, man, but one of the things you shared with me earlier today was you woke up at 4 a.m. because you felt like you were dreaming through a Bible verse, and you spent time praying for an hour this morning thinking about that. Like, I think what you did there is you had a choice to either go back to sleep or to lean into what you felt like God was pressing onto your heart. And in doing so, you're fostering your connection with God. You see, I think that, and I've seen this in my recovery, is that God is so gracious and so with us and so always seeking to connect with us that He's always giving us opportunities to connect with Him throughout the day. Whether that's through a worship song in the car, whether that's through seeing trees with the leaves changing and connecting with God through His beauty, whether that's Him pressing something on your heart to pray about in there. Like, that's the beauty, is like, even the people that we connect with, I think God uses, he uses the Spirit of God stirring us towards Him. He uses the Word of God, His Bible, His Word to us, His truth, and He uses the people of God to point us towards His empowering presence in our lives. And so, and I appreciate you just saying like, man, I recognize that it is the most important thing, and there's nothing I'm ever going to do to get enough of God, which is great, which is actually a good thing, because we can never get to the bottom of God. There's always going to be more of Him. He's always going to seek to fill us up, and that's going to be that way in this life and the next. And so I think, if you're listening to this today and you're thinking through, man, how do I foster connection, man? Well, as we foster connection with God, our prayer life with God, our ongoing heart conversation with God is so important. And sometimes that looks like, God, help me make it through today. Sometimes that looks like the dependence of God, help me make it through this meeting, help me make it to lunch, help me make it through the next 15 minutes as this temptation comes. It also looks like us taking time intentionally to seek His voice and His truth in His Word, the Bible, and spending time meditating on His truths. It looks like us seeking and cultivating connection and community. Get into those open share groups. Jump into a step study group. Get to a meeting. This is a hard time. That's why we have meetings. It's for when hard things happen. And it helps us to remind us that it's okay for us to celebrate and seek those other safe people in our life, the ones that point us back to cultivating connection with God and with others and with ourselves, and understanding what's going on in our heart. And so, Hudson, appreciate you, man. You really are such a good example to us of what does it look like to just work this out, especially in the middle of this season. And man, just really appreciate you. Hey, just if you were to give one word of encouragement to somebody listening to this right now as they're facing down this holiday season, what would you say?
Yep. Man, I would say stay connected, even when that's the last thing you want to do. Just stay connected. Don't lose out on your community. Do whatever you have to do to not be alone. And I think when we're not alone, we're stronger, and we're going to be able to stand against anything that the enemy has against us at this time. Yeah.
Love that, man. Well, Hudson, appreciate you, man. Thanks for jumping on here, brother. And if you're listening, and if you're listening to this right now, hey, we want you to know you are not alone as you're facing down this season. No matter what's going on in your life, in your heart, in your family, and your struggles, we are here for you. Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Rogers, Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Fayetteville happens every single Friday night at 7 o'clock. We've got our large group worship time at 7 o'clock. We've got our open share groups at 8 o'clock. Come and check it out. Seek and cultivate connection through our higher power Jesus and His forever family that He's given us. We love you, Forever Family. We're praying for you in this season.